Good morning and welcome to the virtual breakfast sessions. I'm Larry Sashin, your host, and we've assembled a great panel to talk today about technology and how to use it to prep for the future. First of all, we're going to start by introducing ourselves. David, why don't you go first?
Sure. Thanks so much, Larry. Good morning, everybody. I'm David Joseph, co-founder of Davo Automated Sales Tax, former restaurant owner, 17 years of owning a restaurant. My mea culpa, I totally sucked at sales tax and figured out how to automate it and built a company around that is a technology company, went live in 2015, was acquired by Avalara a year and a half ago, and we're a publicly traded company until Avalara was acquired by Vista Equity Partners a couple of months ago. So deep in the technology space now.
Thank you. Thank you. Jeff.
Hi. Thanks for having me here, Larry. I'm a POS reseller based in the Northeast. We sell nationally to hotels, quick serve, and larger clients who are not going to balk at the price of a real POS.
Okay. Thank you. David Pellin.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is David Pellin, and I am the Vice President and partner for New York Hospitality Group. We operate 4 companies locally here in White Plains, New York. One is Sam's of Getting Away Restaurant. We have the Great American Barbecue Company, catering company. We have a higher-end catering company called Caperberry Events. And we also have everyday healthy cafes that operate in the White Plains Hospital and the White Plains Library, which would be sort of, I always say, like an organic Starbucks. So that's what we do.
Thank you. And Fred.
So this is a really interesting panel for me. I'm Fred Clashman. I'm the editor and publisher of Total Food Service. And I get to spend a good part of every day reading press releases about new and innovative tech solutions for our industry. And I'm amazed at how long it takes and how much there is in the market. And I look forward to this expert panel helping me unclutter and understand exactly where all of this is going.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. You know, go back 5-10 years and running a restaurant was done in books and cash register receipts, and the life was so much simpler. You had supply chains that you could count on. You had employees that you can count on. You had laws that were simply written and easy to follow. All that's changed. Today, if you don't know where you are minute by minute in your business, you're going to fall behind and maybe even get in trouble. David Pellin, why don't you talk about your company's use and dependence on technology?
Sure. Thanks, Larry. So over the last few years, since coming out of COVID, or actually when we were in COVID, and we were really scaled down with employees, I had to figure a way to for oversight of the company, to follow our sales, to follow activity, even labor. And we were working with different systems for different companies, and they were somewhat antiquated. So I went through, and it's funny that Fred, what you said, it's the market is kind of flooded with technology, and there's so much to it that you have to really research before you get involved. And, I researched a bunch of companies, and we actually chose Toast for all of our companies. So I launched Toast POS into every company, which is really taking a look at centralizing information for the company. So I could operate from my office and oversee activity, live time reports, live time labor. And it's really helped. I mean, it's really helped the company as far as reporting, understanding the analytics. And in today's, net live time reports, in today's world, it gives you a lot of information to help you make decisions moving forward. So that was a big undertaking. I mean, I know everyone in the tech world, Jeff and David can tell you there's a lot of options once you get into a program. So, there's a challenge to go along with that. I'm sure we'll cover later, but I think that this was a game changer for our company. It
Thank
has
you.
really helped us watch what is going on live time. It's helped us with future reporting and for the future for hoping to make decisions in the right direction. So we're getting a lot of analytics from the past to look at the future. So this has been really exciting for us. It's an ongoing daily, endeavor to, work with the technology that's there. There's just so much in this technology, but it is a game changer.
Thank you. Thank you. Jeff, you're in the nuts and bolts business, in this technology business.
Yes,
How is David's story common to the industry?
it's very common to the industry. We are seeing a lot of toast in the marketplace. There are other options to toast that, in my opinion, are better. But that's something I'd like to take offline or for another discussion. I am kind of opposed to mixing technology with credit card processing. That's really my main issue with the way things are going.
Why is that?
Because it's forcing people to have to raise their prices because they're overpaying for both technology and processing rates.
Okay.
And I don't see it as a good thing for the industry.
Okay. So how does your solutions solutions in general, how do the solutions in general help the restaurateur in his day-to-day business?
Well, any solution, of course, is better than no solution. And the live reporting is a very valuable asset, as well as real-time reporting. You need to know when you look at your phone immediately how you're doing. If somebody's approaching overtime and you need to let them go for the day, if there's no sales that particular day and you need to quiet things down in the stores.
Okay, just to start the ball rolling with David Joseph. David, you micro focus on one thing that can get a restaurateur in trouble. Why don't you explain how you got there first?
Sure. So there are so many things in this whole conversation to sort of unpack. But in my story, I ran a restaurant in New Jersey for 17 years. I grew it from 20 seats to 116 or 160 seats, 3-4 renovations. We were constantly using our sales tax revenue like other small businesses. You strap for cash to do our renovations, and we would get caught up. And it was just a constant thorn in our side. And a lot of small restaurants smaller businesses struggle with this, but even larger businesses. I don't know if you guys saw, but Bertucci's Pizza, 50-something chain restaurant, just declared bankruptcy. They owe $2.8 million in sales tax. So this is not a small business problem. And the way we solved this problem was by putting sales tax aside daily. I looked at our credit card terminal and I was like, you guys are taking money out of our credit card receipts every day for our merchant cash advance. This is the 1990s. This is like the last century. And I said, that is the solution. If you can put sales tax aside daily from my credit card batch, I would be 80% there every month. As it turns out, I had a partner, we applied for a patent. We got a patent 10 years later. To do exactly that, take sales tax out of the credit card batch. Believe it or not, the credit card companies, we are ahead of technology. The credit card companies today cannot take a variable amount of funds out of a daily credit card batch. So we actually using data from the point of sale, we determine exactly how much sales tax was collected each day based on the transactions. So we interrogate each transaction. It tells us how much sales tax was collected. We issue a debit request directly to the merchant's bank account. We set the sales tax aside. Davo then files and pays it for the merchant. So essentially, this task of managing sales tax, which contributes absolutely zero to your bottom line, there is no financial gain to the bottom line of your business, gets managed totally automated. And this is the beauty of technology. But what we have to take a step back here And what contributed to this revolution right now? And it's the cloud. The cloud, if the cloud did not exist, none of what we are doing, whether you're using Toast or Brink POS, would exist today, because it would all be server based. And so the cloud has really enabled this explosion of technology. And when I talk to restaurateurs today, I tell them, listen, even in a retail business, think of your business as the counter sits in the middle of the business where the cash register is. On one side of that counter, where the front door is, there are a ton of apps that will drive revenue in your business. There are gift cards, third-party orders, online orders. Great. You need to drive people through the door and drive revenue. Now think about the other side, where the back door of your restaurant is. On this side, you have schedule, hiring employees, payroll, sales tax, inventory management, and someone once said to me, when you're looking at apps, is this a solution looking for a problem, or is this a solution to a problem? And I tell people, think about this. Think about this when you are considering technology. Does this solution solve a problem for me? If if it doesn't solve a problem, move on. Look for the next solution out there. Or if you have a problem, look at multiple solutions and decide which one is best for you. But in dividing your business at that counter into the front of house and back of house, it just makes it a little bit easier to figure out the technology that you need. And I talk about this all the time with merchants, and it makes it a little bit easier. I was just at the Emerging Franchise Show a couple months ago, and I hosted a roundtable on exactly this topic. And you know what the big discussion was about for franchises? Communication. How are you communicating with your franchisees and your employees? And they were like, oh, we use Facebook, we use text, we use this. And someone said, oh, we use Slack. And there were people there who were like, what's Slack? Anybody who is in the corporate world today lives on Slack. You live on it, and you can have all these different channels. And people are like, oh, this is what I need I need to look into this for my franchise. Oh, there's a free version of, and so finding the right technology. And I never thought that the conversation was going to evolve around communication. I thought it would be about inventory. How are you managing inventory? Are you managing employees? It was communication. So,
okay. David Pellin, how did this, what David Joseph talk about, how did this fit into how you and Peter Herrero and the group figure out what they should have in their in your restaurants?
Well, right. That's loaded because David just covered a lot. It is a lot of what we just covered when you talk about a problem and finding a
Let me
solution.
rephrase it. Did you have a checklist of what you needed, as opposed to seeing what they did, what a program did, and say, we could use that, we can use that, we can use that? How did you formulate in which direction to go?
Well, Peter asked me when I started analyzing all the companies to bring 4 to the table, and I had a grid of about 30 things that were important to us. And there was pricing in there, there was onboarding, there were a lot of things involved on here: equipment at cost versus lease versus purchasing the equipment, and the terms on it. Some have a 5-year term of leasing, and some are like, hey, you buy it outright and you pay this much. And then performance. What was the performance end? So yeah, we had checklists that we went through. And when it came down to it, I didn't choose the cheapest one. I chose the one based on performance for what we thought our needs were. So we kind of fell in the middle someplace. And it was about really the issues that we had in hand over years. So more like, hey, we're going to find a program to solve our problems. Right up, straight up, because it's a lot of in the restaurant business and the catering business, there's a lot of data, there's a lot of information that's floating around. There's a lot of organization, and we really need to bring all that together. So yeah, we analyzed it and then I brought it to Peter, like, if we get this is this much, this is this much a month, this is this much. So it came down the cost, and here's a performance. This is what this can do, this can do, this can do, and this can do. So it took me probably about 6 months to actually compile everything after meeting with every different company and talking to them, and then going through, a demo with them. But I think that for our needs, I think that we really hit it off. And one thing, like Jeff was saying, the only big downside that we found was the cost of processing. Toast is expensive. I got into Toast pre-public. So they were dumping equipment at almost no cost to bring on. Obviously, we all know what they want to do. They want to go public. They have a lot of people involved. So they wanted to look great. Like, hey, we have 1,000 placements a week and yada, yada, yada. So we were actually benefits of that. They basically gave me the equipment at almost zero to get in. So over 5 years of figuring out the equipment versus the processing and the differential, we're still in a really good place. And then Peter and I said, we'll analyze it after 5 years, figure it out.
Thank you. Thank you. Jeff, when a restaurant calls you or a company calls you for processing, is there a checklist you go through with them to make sure they're buying the right product for the right reasons?
Honestly, all we can do is show them what we have and what we can do, and then we open the opportunity to them to be able to use any processor who they'd like. So we encourage them to shop, because the more you shop, the cheaper the rate you get. And we integrate with anybody as far as processing. And the amount of money you save monthly on your processing between a processor-owned POS company would be certainly more than enough. You could be paying $100,000 for a $20,000 POS system for the processing rates you're paying extra.
Wow.
Fred, you got a question?
No, I had no idea though that's what was going on.
So how do you avoid that?
People just don't see it. It's hidden.
Right.
A lot of those fees are hidden on the processor-owned company. I'm not mentioning any names because I know that they're starting to come after me now.
Okay, you don't have to mention names, but
Right, but
talk
a
about
lot of them
what you
are,
just talked about.
they're starting with a rate, and then 6 months later they raise you, and then 3 months later they have an excuse to raise you again, and it's an ongoing increase in rates.
Yeah, because David, I remember when you switched over. The switch over, it's sort of a painful process. It's sort of like giving birth, I guess. I've never given birth, but the pain that's involved with giving birth, I imagine okay, let's talk about a kidney stone. That I know. It's a painful process to switch over. Can you talk about that process and why people should spend time to decide which is the right program for them?
Sure. Big time, when you figure out what program is good for you based on your needs, there is a very complicated, doesn't matter what system it is, onboarding for the restaurateur or typical layperson like I that's not really tech savvy. Like Jeff and David might be like, you get it, you put it together, you plug in some numbers.
Plug and play.
Yeah, it's not that easy.
It's not plug and play. Never.
And there's so much to these systems where I've been involved with multiple systems, not just, Toast, other systems, cateries, all the way up. I've seen Clover, I've seen, a bunch of them. They have a lot of back end things that you, as the operator, you have to program it based on your needs. And that's a lot of decision making. That's a lot of organization. And it's a learning curve where it takes quite some time if you're just a basic, typical lay person, like, I'm an operator of food service. So what I did was I hired a young person and to come on and she's like 25 years old. She was a manager for me at one of the cafes in COVID. She wasn't working. And she came on, she was absolutely amazing at programming and understanding this and programming. Toast is different at the hospital cafes and the library than it is for the restaurant. So it's the same program. I have the same dashboard for all 5 areas, 5 venues, but obviously different program for them. And how do they integrate some of that? So it takes time. No matter what you get, Larry, no matter what you decide on, there is quite a bit of work to do on the user end. And the technology sales end for like Jeff, and there are so many great features to all these, and at a certain point it's almost overwhelming for someone purchasing, which I love that idea about checklists, sell the fear, like, hey, here's the things that we know go wrong in the hotel business, and these are the solutions that we provide. Helps like a person like me, because we do have a lot of issues, which we like solutions, right? All of us, we just like to hear the solutions. And that's a really good way to sell it. Toast did a lot of that. And Toast integrated a lot of apps into what they do. So it's a one-stop shopping. They save you in some areas that they don't. Their technology is a little bit more superior than some of the others in many areas. But the programming is very cumbersome. And it took a lot of, onboarding and time and correction. And then another part of that is the infrastructure of your Wi-Fi, your internet. You have to have that correct. And that's another specialty that most people will not tell you when they're selling you this POS. So I was lucky. There's a local gentleman, Tony, that has installed many POS systems, and Toast especially, he understood. So he understood the needs of the infrastructure to go along with that. So that's not just a one cost to get like your POS system. You're now talking about infrastructure, your Wi-Fi, how many bands does it have, on the speed, right? I mean, Jeff, you could probably go on a whole class on this, which is
Absolutely.
important information that we all stumble through. But once we kind of got that understanding in our head of how to do it, we then executed. But it was like you're saying, it was like giving birth. It's every day you're in there going, whoo.
You touched on something that we haven't gotten here. I tried getting somebody who was an expert in security, Wi-Fi security. Couldn't make it today. It's funny. We all sit in our houses and we do our computers, and you go into another room and you're talking on Zoom and people go, black, you're frozen. It's when the Wi-Fi goes out, or you have Wi-Fi problems in your house, you have an annoyance. Fred, can you go over in your head, and you and I will figure this out, and the guys could jump in, on what happens if the Wi-Fi goes out in a restaurant? What do you lose? You lose your POS.
It actually depends on your system. I'm
Okay.
sorry for jumping in, but
No,
this is
that's what I
something-
want you to do.
This is go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I want you to know, you know it better than anybody. You go through it every day with your clients. Please.
Yeah, we go through it every day with our
Yeah.
clients. First and foremost, you need to have a system that has offline credit card processing and that runs on a local network. So this way, if the internet is out, your system will continue to run. That's something that I've seen Brink do better than anyone else. The cashiers don't even know that the system is down. So they're just ringing sales. There's a maximum that a person can ring in offline mode because the cards are not being authorized. And then the system comes back automatically, and you only know if a card was bad, that sale had a problem. And that's the most important thing. Other than that, cloud-based systems are always going to be a problem with offline. So you need an offline mode. And then you need to have a cellular backup. Because if there's going to be a long-term internet outage, you need something that's going to allow you to process your cards.
Mm-hmm. On top of that, don't you have your inbound ordering system where people are ordering takeout and they're doing it online, and all of a sudden your phone starts to ring over and over and over and
Yes.
So Jeff, how do you create that cellular backup? Do you buy a separate phone or a separate? What
No,
do you
it's a
do?
separate device, and
Okay.
all of these carriers have lower price plans that are data only.
Okay.
And normally the way we do it is we sign up for like 1 gig of data plan a month, just in case. That's enough to cover you through a day.
Right.
So, and after that, it's going to cost you like $20 a day to use that cellular plan after you go over your gig. But it's
Okay.
far worth spending $20 a day for cell
Sure.
service than shutting down your business.
Yep.
In our systems, we have redundancy built into our systems. So we collect sales data. It rolls across time zones, but at 2 a.m, because we're collecting transactional data on 24-hour cycles. So at 2 a.m, we connect and collect all the sales data. But if the POS happened to have been offline at 2 a.m. because engineering at Toast was doing some upgrade, we'll miss that data for that day. And we have redundancies built into our system that notices that, and we'll go back and collect it in the next cycle. So I think one of the keys to it is making sure, the takeaway here is you need redundancy within your system, within the restaurant, within the business. That redundancy, whether it's cellular data, whatever it is, you can't count on just having a cloud-based system and everything is there. There needs to be some redundancy built into that. So
Yeah, and this is not to be confused with a waitress not showing up to work or a refrigerator crapping out. This is this is the
it's
nuts
vital.
and bolts of, yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. So I wanted to just sort of step back a bit. We were talking about pricing and value. David was mentioning, we looked when they were looking at POS, what are the values of this and stuff. And it's interesting how you can leverage automation to actually be more efficient, but also save money. I recently spoke to this restaurant chain. We brought them on 8 pizzerias. And they have a CFO. She has 3 on staff. They let one person go who maternity leave and never brought them back on during COVID. So there are 2 of them. And I said, so how do you manage sales tax now? And she said, well, I come in every day and either myself or my assistant log in to each of our restaurants. We see how much tax they collected and we set it aside in our tax account. And, I hear this story over and over again. We manage it really well. This is how we do it. We set it aside every couple of days or every day. And I'm like, it's great. It's great. But if you're doing this every day and it takes you 2 minutes per location, that's an hour a month times 8 locations. You are spending 1 day a month just moving money because you're doing the good thing. You're the good doobie. You're running your business really well. Best practice. This is ridiculous to actually think about taking that time to do that and leveraging technologies like Davo that actually does this automated, so you don't think about it and you don't have to take time out of the day, even if it's 2 minutes to do this. This is the beauty of technology and leveraging it. I think the other app that we work very closely with is a scheduling app. It's called Homebase. I don't know if you guys know it. I know it's available on Toast, but Homebase has a number of features. It connects into Indeed, saving time on advertising job openings. It enables you to set schedules, analytics. People can move around within a schedule through texting. You can set up texting to your employees. Hey, it's your due at work in an hour. All these little features. I used to run a restaurant. I know, people coming through the back door or calling up, hey, can you punch me in? I'll be there in 15 minutes. Those things cost businesses money, and anything you can do, there's technology out there today to get rid of that waste. I used to call it the $20 bills on the floor. in our restaurant. These are the $20 bills sitting on the floor. Today it's probably 50s or hundreds. I used to walk around, people say, well, what's your job at the restaurant? I run the restaurant. My job is to find the $20 bills. My job is to find those and put them in my wallet, because at the end of the day, this is profit. These are your profits that you're losing. You pay a penalty on sales tax. You might as well open your wallet and say to the state, here, come and help yourself. That's ridiculous today. So
What are we talking about with penalties on sales tax?
20-25%. So,
Per?
you owe per what you owe. So you owe $5,000, a 20% penalty is $1,000. You're making 8 cents on the dollar. 8 cents on the dollar. You have $1,000 penalty. It's going to take you a long time to get caught up. Sales tax is the #1 contributor to new business failures because they get behind on sales tax and it's impossible to dig yourself out of that hole. And it is a personal liability. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of sales tax, but it's a personal liability. You close your business, you still owe that money. Same as payroll taxes. Yeah, just because you closed your business and declared bankruptcy, it does not get discharged in bankruptcy court. You will owe that money. I've talked to people 5, 6, 7 years after they've closed their business and they're still paying off on sales tax or payroll taxes. The thing about payroll is you have a solution out there. There are lots of payroll solutions, ADP, Paychecks, your accountant, QuickBooks, whatever. There are lots of payroll solutions. There is only one sales tax solution out there. And Davo is it. We own our technology. We built it. We own it. Nobody else has it. And so, you take New York State. If you're doing under 300,000 a quarter in New York State, you're a quarterly filer. For paying your sales tax on time, you are entitled to a refund of $200 per quarter. $200 per quarter. Davo is $50 a month. It's $150 a quarter. It is free in the state of New York, and you get $50 back. Like,
Okay.
What part of that don't you like? I say this to merchants all the time. What's wrong with that? Is there a problem with that? Like, I just don't understand. Like, why would you want to do this or pay somebody $100 a month to do this for you?
Let's move on with the value, because value is important, because
Totally.
there are people that live under rocks and they run businesses, the old ways.
Sure.
Jeff, what do your systems bring someone who's only have the simplest system that just, money in, money out?
Well, the most important thing that we bring is stability in every system that I've ever resold. Stability was the #1 thing. The most important thing that any POS system can do is to account for your sales and make sure you get paid for your sales. Other than that, it doesn't matter what else you have. So we make sure that everybody's set up. There are certain features. You want to know what you're selling, what you're not selling, so you're not producing items that are going to sit on the shelves and then you're throwing away food. There are so many things there. I really, if we do this again, I'll make a checklist. I just don't have it on the top of my head right now.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. And here is the person who lives under the rock.
Right.
Okay. So you're selling an item. You're selling steak au poivre. You're
Okay.
selling that, and during a month's time, steak goes up 7%. Does
Right.
your system alert as it goes every time you buy steak? Does your system put up a red flag stating that price that you charged at the beginning of the month no longer you can sell yourself out of business?
That is not something that I think is in any specific POS system. All systems rely on a third-party product for that.
Yeah,
So
there
there
are
are
inventories.
inventory
There are inventory apps out there. There
Right.
are recipe pricing, and I've looked at a lot of them. I come from a little bit more of a different viewpoint because I was a restaurant chef owner for almost 20 years. And so I get it. And like in our restaurant, we manage food costs daily. We had an Excel sheet, and if I owned a restaurant today, I would probably use the same Excel sheet, but I would have it on an iPad instead of like a paper thing. But we tracked every penny that got spent to buy product because I tell owners, your restaurant runs on 2 numbers. They always say to me, oh yeah, food and labor. I'm like, no, it doesn't run on food and labor. It runs on what'd you buy your product for and what'd you sell your product for? And what's the spread? How much money did we spend to buy the steak, Larry? And how much profit, how much did we sell it for? And at the end, the difference in there is your profit that you can pay your employees. And if you're doing that on a daily basis, you will see the trend, and you're going to see that steak going up in price, and you're going to see your food costs going up in price. And if you're tracking it on a daily basis, you will know that. And there are tools out there to help people. But as Jeff said, a lot of it is still, it is the job of the head chef to make sure that those numbers are being watched and efficient in a kitchen.
David
Yeah,
Pellin.
and
But-
let,
but
let-
not-
let me just
but-
add one thing in,
Yeah.
Fred, I'm sorry.
No, go.
There are a lot of these products actually do the ordering from the food services for you. And they're input automatically into your system and red flagging when a price has changed.
Especially in the
with-
bigger organizations like PAR
Right.
Brink, is multi-unit. So especially in the contract buying. Yeah.
Now, that just puts, another question in my head with supply chains being so fragile. Does a food system tell you
to the one place that you're ordering from?
they're out of it or they can't deliver? Does it go to a secondary place?
I honestly don't know that.
No.
David Pellin, what do you guys do?
Well, mainly we order a bulk of our food, produce, meats, not fish, through Cisco. Cisco developed several years ago an in-house system of costing, lifetime costing of your food versus your purchases. So you ask about the steak au poivre. Now, Toast is not going to tell us that, as Jeff just covered. But when you're in the Cisco system, and we have started pricing, we probably have about priced 700 items right now that we sell. And let's say we go in and we order Bell and Evans chicken tomorrow. That we can go into our costing module in Cisco, and we can see that the price of that dish that we made pecan chicken from that, the cost has gone up or down based on the purchase of that chicken that day. So this is a really cool, it's not much of an inventory, it's a pricing system based on your purchases through Cisco. And even if you buy through Baldor, or you buy through another company, you can override and manually put in those prices and still get the price of that dish out. So we do have almost daily pricing of a lot of our food items, which is really helping us analyze the food costs in the restaurant versus catering, which is the higher end catering company, Cape and Berry Events, and then also versus the barbecue company. And we also have a drop-off business, a delivery business. So everything's scaled to a 3 or 5 pound tray of food or a platter. We actually have lifetime analytics coming in for what's happening with those prices. We just saw something just went haywire the other day. They were telling me, oh, chicken. So chicken was it was up to like $118 for a case, where it was like 85, maybe the week before. So you're seeing this, the prices are jumping all over the place, but it's really helping us look and say, wow, that dish is super expensive, or wow, that we can make money on that dish. Let's push that in the restaurant.
Sure.
So these things there, and like Jeff said, there's not a lot of that I saw, and Jeff would know better than I do. There's not many POS systems that would do the pricing that would tell you lifetime, but this Cisco system does do that. And it's another one we're programming. So we have 3 systems working. We have Toast, we have Cateries for catering, and we have the system by Cisco that we're working, all 3 of them programming with everyone that's under 22 years old. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
You guys are all out of it.
Yeah. Cisco tried to get into the POS business. They actually acquired a POS, and it was a huge failure, because their concept was, we'll connect the POS to our buying, and you'll have all this data, it'll talk to each other. It's just not there yet. Will it ever be there? I don't know. but those are separate systems essentially. And
Right.
and what David is saying about looking at, what are we paying for a case of chicken, but then turning around and saying, what is that case producing for us? That's how you have to really look at it. You can't say, oh, this chicken breast, this case cost me $120 and I got X number of portions. So that's the center of the plate. There's a lot more in that case of chicken. Did you buy chicken on the bone? Did you use all the bones to make stock? Did you turn around and sell consomme at $10 a bowl? My restaurant, we used to buy whole duck and we sold duck consomme, and the duck consomme in my restaurant paid for the duck breast. Duck breast was paid for, it went out. Well, so what was my center of the plate? My center of the plate was all profit at that point because the consomme from the bones was making, but this is how restaurants run. And I say to people, you need to think like an investment banker. You're not buying food, you are investing, you are making an investment. Every time that Cisco order goes in or wherever you're buying from, you are making an investment, and you need to think, what does that investment return to my business? What is the return on investment? And if you're throwing stuff away, your return is going to be low. You need a high return to cover expenses, especially today.
Wow. We
So,
can go
so
on.
with that,
One
hold on a
last
second.
question, Fred.
Yeah. So food waste really isn't about food waste at all.
There should be no waste.
It's about money waste is what it's about.
Of course, the $20 bill
Yeah.
on the floor. It's the $100 bill on the floor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Wow, we can go on for hours, and I'm sure there's, first of all, are there any questions in the audience? Anybody hear anything? Anybody question? Just wave at me.
There was a question about itemizing expenses in a software application.
Okay, who said that? Asked that question?
Richie Hartman.
Rich Hartman. Unmute yourself, Rich.
No, what I meant with that was, with COVID, you see more and more restaurants putting some of their costs on a customer's bill. Would anybody ever consider putting these costs on a customer's bill?
Yeah, my view on that is you need to get better processing rates so you don't have to pass them off on the customer.
It depends. It depends on
Okay.
how it's set up, how the what's being passed on to the customer and how they're setting it up. So
Yeah,
I have one more question for Jeff. Jeff, one of the things that's not being said that I want to make sure you understand is, and this is a naive question on my part, are there actual credit card processors in which you can buy processing from them, and their equipment is not inclusive or part of the package?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
There are.
Absolutely. But the problem is a lot of these softwares like Toast and like Revel force you to use them as the processor. So basically, if you stop dealing with them,
Okay.
you can't process.
I want to go back to what Rich said, and then we'll start doing something else. What I found is that if you surcharge because of whatever you're surcharging for, if it's 4%, if it's 4% to use the credit cards, use a credit card. Whatever you surcharge, at least for the first 3 months, ends up coming out of the waiters or waitress's tip.
Mhm.
So it's all counterproductive. So if there's a system of doing this, please, somebody speak up. But all I know is anytime somebody, I heard this back in 2020 when they were raising the wage rates for restaurants, where they had a 5% charge for higher restaurant pay, and so instead of tipping 20%, they were tipping 15%. And this is going on. This is just a knee-jerk reaction by the consumer. So, if there's a way to hide things, you hide things. But either way, somebody's paying more money. You guys just boggled my mind with what came out of your mouths, and I love it. This will make for one great video. I just want to thank you all for coming. But before we go, what I'd like to do is go around the room, starting with David Joseph, and give one last takeaway, a generic takeaway, not a sales pitch, a generic takeaway that someone who's looking for or has the idea is I need something new in a POS system or a computer program, what they should do. David.
Yeah, you need to just sort of take that hard look at your business and at yourself and your own quality of life and say, what will make my life easier? Like, what is the challenge that I face every day when I unlock the door and come in the back door of my restaurant? And there is probably a solution out there for it. Do the research, find the solutions, and leverage technology. Is it a solution looking for a problem, or it is a solution to a problem?
Thank you. Jeff.
You need to be dealing with a technology partner that's going to be your partner and is going to care about your business. There are so many POS resellers that have had to close their doors because everyone is being overtaken by these large corporate-owned POS companies. It's the resellers that are going to help your business and are going to know you and that you're going to reach out to, and you're going to know the people who you're talking to.
Thank you. David Pellin.
I think David and Jeff had a nice combination. When you talk about, the system you're going to choose, quality of life, having good partnership, understanding the technology, so you can get the most out of it based on your needs. So you really have to, before you purchase or go into any system, you want to analyze what that system is going to bring to you and the cost, and you're going to have to weigh both of them. What's more important to you?
Okay, Fred.
Just want to thank these guys. Unbelievable. Well, I wish when I went to school, I had people like this could teach like this. Oh my goodness. Thank you.
Okay, going back on what Fred said, I wish also.
Wow.
I probably wouldn't have slept in class that much.
Yeah.
I would listen more. Listen, guys, thanks for coming. Audience, thanks for getting up on this dreary, I don't know where you guys are, but it's really miserable here. Thanks for getting up in this dreary day to hear us speak. I just want to do a shout out to Tim Gannon from Big Works, who does all our videos. If you get a chance, check out totalfood.com/VBS/ or go to YouTube and put in virtual breakfast sessions and see some of our past episodes. And if you see from the beginning to the end, you see when Tim joined us around number 27 or 25 or number 27, when all of a sudden the videos start looking a whole lot better. Then,
Hire a professional. What did Jeff just say?
well, that's what we did do.
We did
Before Tim, it sort of looked like, when your 5-year-old uses a crayon to draw a picture of mom and somebody takes a nice photograph. I was that 5-year-old with a crayon, and then Tim took over and we actually started looking good. So Tim, thank you very much. I know he is stuck at an airport right now and could not make it. But if you need a video, call me. I'll give you his number, and he's just a great guy to do business with. So listen, in 2 weeks, we're going to be, it's not going to be on a Wednesday. It's going to be on a Thursday, the following Thursday. And I don't have the date in my head, but you'll hear about it. And we're going to be talking to Liz Newmark from Great Performances. And you talk about a success story. This is the one. It's going to be one of our coffee with sessions, and I think if you want to know how to be a success, this is the person you have to listen to. So listen, I only have 2 things to say after this. Hey, everybody, stay positive, test negative, and I hope to see you all in 2 weeks. Bye now.
All right,
Thank you,
thanks,
guys.
everyone. Bye, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.